Welcome to the RN Mentor Podcast. I'm Dr. Ali Tayeb, nurse, educator, advocate, and United States Navy veteran. This show is about real conversations with nurses moving the profession forward. We discuss leadership, practice, policy, research, and more. What matters and why it matters. I'm glad you're here, so let's get started. Hello and welcome to another episode of the RN Mentor Podcast. I am extremely excited today to be joined today by Dr. Katie Boston-Leary. Dr. Katie Boston-Leary is a Senior Vice President of Equity and Engagement at the American Nurses Association, addressing DEIAB and workforce challenges within the profession. Dr. Boston-Leary is an Adjunct Professor at the University of Maryland School of Nursing and the School of Nursing at Case Western Reserve University. She is a board member for St. John's University Health Programs, Hippocratic AI, and Ingenovis Health, and an editorial advisory board member with the Nursing Management Nursing 2025 and ACHE. Dr. Boston-Leary leads the National Commission to Address Racism in Nursing Forum and served on the National Academy of Science and Medicine's National Plan to Address Clinician Well-Being, supported by the previous U.S. Surgeon General. Dr. Boston-Leary has authored 2 chapters in the Sage Encyclopedia of Multicultural Counseling, Social Justice, and Advocacy, the first encyclopedia focused on racism and diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Dr. Boston-Leary was also featured in the award-winning documentary film Everybody's Work, funded by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. She was identified in August 2019 Health Leaders Media Journal as one of 5 chief nursing officers changing healthcare. She also won the ICABA TD Bank 2023 Women of Impact Award and the 2024 Spectrum Circle Award for Innovation in Health. She is a distinguished fellow at the Academy of Diversity Leaders in Nursing, a fellow with the American Organization of Nurse Leadership, and will be inducted this coming October as a fellow of the American Academy of Nursing. Dr. Boston-Leary has conducted research on care delivery models, time allocation, racism, and civilized operations in nursing. She completed her PhD at Walden University in Health Services, obtained a dual degree, MBA, and an MHA from the University of Maryland Global Campus, and her bachelor's degree in nursing from Bowie State University in Maryland. She is a board-certified nurse executive and obtained her nurse executive leadership certificate from Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. Welcome to the show, Dr. Boston-Leary.
Thank you, Dr. Tayeb. I'm so honored to be here, and I'm so sorry you had to read all that. That was a lot.
It is, I even took a couple of sentences out to make it shorter, but I was trying to edit this. I'm like, I can't edit this. It's just too good. So I just want to know where you get the time to do all of it.
Yeah, I do sleep though. I do sleep, but thank you. Thank
No,
you.
it's your accolades. I had to share them because the work that you do is so impactful, and that's why I wanted to have you on the show, so we can actually not only discuss your career but the impact that you're actually making with the positions that you hold. So with that, let's get started with my same question for all my guests: is how did you get started in the world of nursing?
No, that's a great question. And it's an interesting one because I did fall into nursing. I did not have a role model or someone that I knew that I wanted to emulate, or an experience. I took a gap year after I finished high school and was lost, and someone saw a lost soul and advised me to go to the community college for a free program, a program that was free to residents where I live to pursue allied health careers,
Wow.
and actually admonished me and told me I better do it or else. And at the last minute, I went, and the energy on campus driving up there was so electric. I just felt like it was a community that I wanted to belong to. So I was sold then. And then I got to the space where they were doing this career fair for people that want to go into allied health careers. And I was going to go into occupational therapy because it looked like a fun job. But the line was very long and I had to go to work and I had to try to beat the traffic. So I went in the shortest line, and that's how I became a nurse.
Amazing, amazing. So, almost, I want to say, sometimes we make our decisions based on whatever's most convenient sometimes. So,
True.
so thank goodness for the shorter lines.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm part of the best profession in the world.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
excellent. So I know, so you got your bachelor's in nursing. So did you do your undergraduates or your prerequisites and stuff at the community college level, then transfer?
No, I actually got my associate's degree
Oh,
at the community college. And then a year later, I went to Bowie State to get my bachelor's degree. And I also went to that college because I went to a community college in Virginia that was not very diverse. None of my instructors were people of color. I
mm,
felt, even though I'm grateful for the program and how it prepared me, I always felt that I was wading underwater, right? Like
mm,
no one could hear or see me. And the reason that struck me so hard was I my mom always told me that I was special. um, I remember when we were little, we had peanut gallery bed sheets on the bunk bed that my sister and I were in. And one of the sayings that was on the sheets was, which it's amazing how things just permeate your brain. And it read, "To know me is to love me."
mm,
So I always felt that, yeah, if once you know me, you will love me. And I didn't feel loved. So I got my credentials to be able to practice as an RN, but I had cotton mouth, right? There was something missing. And I felt that not only did I want to pursue getting my bachelor degree because I had heard that that's the next step, I also wanted to really find out what a true college experience would be with people that look like me and for people to teach that look like me. So that's how I ended up at Bowie State University. And at the
mm.
time, there was this very popular show after the Cosby Show, A Different World, that
Yeah.
had Lisa Bonet. And I really felt that I need to get that experience. That just seems so lovely. I got a little bit of that because I didn't stay in the dorm on campus, but I finally felt like I was being seen, um, and 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 loved because I was among people that just were high performers, and it didn't matter what you look like.
Yeah. That's so important. That's so important to be able to
Yeah,
like see yourself not only in the peers that you're with, but also like faculty and leadership.
absolutely.
So extremely important. So what was your first job out of the gate? What did you do?
So believe it or not, when I finished my program, when I finished my associate's degree, there was a nursing surplus.
Hmm.
And I was living in the DC area, and the Washington Post used to hold annual healthcare career fairs. And I went to the career fair, and it was packed. And I knew that I was going to walk away with a job, and I didn't. And but I remember there was this booth that did not have a lot of traffic, and I went to that booth for my safety because it was like a stampede, a lot of people there. And it was the booth for a public hospital in DC, DC General,
Yeah.
that's now closed. And they shared about how they plan on hiring nurses into their NICU because they're going to do a RIF and early retirement for nurses that have been there for years. So would I be willing to wait a few months? And I said, absolutely. So my first hospital job was at DC General in the step down NICU, but my first nursing job was at a group home for pediatric patients that had physical disabilities.
Mm.
And I practiced essentially as a medication aid,
Wow.
because that's the only job I could get. Um,
Yeah.
I had this rosy dream that I was going to work in Hopkins because it was a panacea, and I was like, they're going to know me, they're going to love me. And I went there for an interview and I didn't get called back.
Ah,
Yeah, I worked at this group home for a while, um, um, pretty much as a medication aid, but as an RN. And
okay.
then eventually I got the job at DC General and I started working there.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, what was your experience, not only after you finished your bachelor's degree, but what did your career lead you that you eventually decided, you know what, I'm going to go back for higher education. I'm going to go back for my master's and eventually your PhD.
Yeah, I just felt that as I because I talked to you about what happened, how I felt at home at Bowie State because it's an HBCU. But in the in as you're working and you're functioning as an RN and you're um trying to do your best, provide great care and establish relationships and thrive. I still felt that I was always being questioned. I always felt that there were two things happen. I was always being questioned in terms of my abilities, but I also knew that I wanted more. Like those two things were at play. So, but I also knew after I got my bachelor degree that I did not want to do another nursing program. Like I felt that I think I just felt that at that point, I learned all I need to do to learn in nursing, and now I needed to expand my knowledge and understand the world of healthcare. So that's why I chose the master's in health administration degree. And then the business administration degree was really because I needed to feed my this piece part of me that I saw with my mother, who was a very good businesswoman,
Mhm.
um, as a hairdresser. So, and I did a lot of that for her when I was a teenager. So I wanted to also feed that need to learn about business and put that together with healthcare and the business of healthcare. I felt that dual degree was perfect for me.
Yeah.
So that's why I pursued that. And it was one of the better decisions that I could have made, actually.
Yeah, that's great. You bring up a really important point that's actually come up in a couple of shows now is like when I was going through like my nursing program for my bachelor's degree, and then next thing I knew, I was looking for an opportunity to get my master's. It never even dawned on me to not do it in nursing.
Mm.
Like that was like it wasn't even a thought in my head. I'm like, oh, clearly I'm gonna do another degree and it's gonna be a nursing degree.
Mhm.
But I find it so much valuable for for individuals who do a different who are not looking to become nurse practitioners. Like me, I wasn't looking to become a nurse practitioner.
Mhm.
I knew that wasn't the route for me.
Mhm.
Uh, but being able to having that vision of doing something outside of nursing, I think is brilliant because you bring so much more diverse skill sets into the profession of nursing by doing that. Like I know people
Yeah.
who did masters
And
in
and
public health and masters in healthcare administration or
totally,
MBA, and
totally.
there are just so many different avenues to do this and expand on the profession of nursing.
Right. And I was also in the operating room. I transferred to the operating room because I knew I wanted to work there from a limited exposure I had to that specialty when I was in my nursing program.
Mm.
And the operating room, perioperative services, is very much a business.
Oh yeah,
You're managing your customers, your supplies, your expenses, all of that. So I felt that that was the appropriate next step for me.
Yeah.
is to understand the business aspect of healthcare. And it really served me well. Even though, because you're a nurse, people think that that's all you know and they want to keep you in that box.
Yeah.
But I made every effort to expand my knowledge beyond nursing while I was also learning more about the profession.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. Um, so with your you eventually from your what I know and from your bio, you eventually got into leadership roles.
Mhm.
How did that process work for you? Was that something that you knew you wanted to do, or was that something that somebody said, I think you need to do this?
Not at all. And I know interview is going to sound like I couldn't make any decisions and people would make it for me. But no, and it seems like I'm the accidental tourist in healthcare and nursing. But no, that's not it at all. I just it I guess it really does take opportunity
Mm,
that would and not every opportunity people walk, when the door opens, not everyone walks through them.
right,
And I think in a number of ways when the opportunities did come, I walked through those doors um well informed.
right.
And when I finished my degree, my bachelor degree, I was working in an OR and as a staff nurse, and the nurse manager, it was announced that I finished my bachelor degree, and the director of the department called me into her office just ad hoc, like most nursing leaders do. It's never a can we meet tomorrow? They just say, could you come here? And so I thought I was in trouble. And she called me in and she said, where do you see yourself and now that you finish your degree? And I'm thinking, gosh, I wish I knew that this conversation I was gonna have today. Like I had not prepared. So I flippantly said to her, because I wanted to finish my lunch and go back to my work. So I flippantly said, I want your job.
uh,
And that's what, and I just said it very carelessly, flippantly, didn't mean it.
yeah,
And not too long after that, they offered, hey, do you want to be a supervisor? Just try it out. You'll be great. Da, da, da. You're going to have this support. And I said, well, I'll try it. And that's
yeah,
how I started. But years later, I ran into that leader who I made that careless remark to. And she said to me, I was very impressed that you would say that to me. And that's when I knew you'd be a great leader.
yeah.
And I said, you just don't know. I just wanted to get out of your office because I thought I was in trouble. And she's like, no, but that just for you to be able to say that in that setting and the way you said it, it just spoke volumes to me. So that was
Yeah,
the beginning of my path in leadership, and in almost every leadership position that I've had. Again,
yeah,
it's really someone that said, I think you can do X.
yeah.
Okay, I'll try it. Okay, now I think you're ready for this. Okay, I'll try it. And that's how I progressed, even to the point where I became a chief nursing officer.
Yeah.
I was an interim chief nursing officer, and then I was made permanent. So the only job that I really applied for is the job that I have at ANA. Most of my leadership roles, it's been an appointment, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. You mentioned something that actually, I've picked up throughout this few years I've been doing this show is the whole accidental tourist thing, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, it just happened. But when I look at their careers and look at, what they've done, it's really not by accident. They have been prepared for the role
Yeah,
and then tapped on the shoulder
yeah,
or the opportunity became available. But it
yeah,
wasn't because they weren't prepared. It was just that they said yes, exactly what you mentioned is they said yes to that opportunity when
yeah.
it came knocking on their door and they opened the door and like, yeah, absolutely, I'll do this.
Yeah. And no matter
Um,
what, you have to perform, right? I
yeah,
mean,
either way, yes, exactly.
you have to perform. And someone said the most important interview is one that you're doing when you're not aware that you're doing it.
Yeah,
And it's really when you are going about your day and and exuding excellence and doing the right things and saying the right things, people take notice.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to me. And I'm grateful for all the people in my career path that has pulled me along.
Yeah.
Because you know, we all self-reject. And ordinarily, would I have applied for some of these roles when those opportunities came? Probably not.
Yeah.
I probably would not have seen myself in those roles because I never, in all the roles that I've been in, I never saw anyone that looked like me. So
Yeah.
some of them are still around, some of them have passed on. Eternally grateful to those folks.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's important to have those individuals that can see the potential in us
Sure.
and
Absolutely.
then reach out. Or they see what we don't necessarily see in ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
Very important to have those individuals in our lives.
Yes.
Um, you mentioned something around um, and I just lost my train of thought. Um, I was going to mention, so w with those opportunities, were there any this is what I want to ask. Were there any opportunities that came along and you were like, that's not for me? Have you ever done
Every single one.
that?
Every single one. I seriously, every single one that has come, I remember the first time I was told the person in the director role was moving on. I started there as a charge nurse. She was moving on to a different role, and she had shared, she called me in her office and she said, you know, I'm moving on to this other role. We're going to, if you want it, we're going to move you into the director position.
Mm,
And I was in a state of disbelief, like this is not really happening. And she said, I'm going to make the announcement at the staff meeting uh, the following day. So just so you're prepared, as long as you're good, I'm going to make the announcement, da, da, da. And I was like, okay, sure, you know. And I'm still in this space of this is not really happening. And then the staff meeting happens. And she gives this great speech about moving on and, you know, succession planning and everything. And Katie is going to be leading you in the next month or so while I pursue other opportunities. And then she says, Katie, do you have a few words to say? And I said, no. I was truly having an out of body experience right there in the
Yeah.
meeting because it's one thing for her to tell me in her office. It's
Yeah.
one thing for her to tell me in front of all these people. That means it's really going to happen,
Yeah.
right?
Made it
Because
reality.
in my mind, I kept thinking they're going to change their mind. They're going to look at my track record and they're going to say they're going to change their minds, and I'm going to be
Yeah.
fine. You know, it's not meant for me anyway. And then she's announcing it in the staff meeting, and then it's my turn to like say something profound and inspirational. And I know people that know that I do a lot of speaking engagements now, they find this hard to believe. I had no words. I did not say. I just said. She said, "Do you have anything to say?" And I said, "No." I didn't say thank you for the opportunity. Like none of that. So she saw me afterwards and she was livid. Like, I can't believe you had nothing to say. And I said, I'm so sorry. I'm realizing now that this thing is going to happen.
Yeah.
So, in almost every respect, absolutely. I tried to not show it, but in every respect, I always said, yeah, um, I'm not sure that this is really going to happen.
Yeah.
Something's going to come up that's going to make them say no. And then, yeah. And then it would happen. Then I'll say, okay, I have to perform and I'm not a fail. I'm not going to fail. I'm
Yeah.
going to make the best out of this. And with that thinking, I excel.
Yeah. Now, were there opportunities that came up and you actually truly, not that you thought, but you're like, because I've done it before where opportunities like, hey, this is a great opportunity. And I look at it, it's just not aligned with me, right? With the
Oh
work I
yeah.
do and things like that. Do you
Oh
run
yeah.
into those?
Oh, for sure. And I remember after I got my doctorate degree and I jumped off the chief nurse hamster wheel, and I was then looking for what I was going to do next. And a lot of people would send things my way and I'll explore it, and it just didn't sit right with my soul. And as I've matured, I've learned to pay attention to that instinct about whether something feels like a fit or not. And yeah, or you'll have a colleague that that's a great leader, and that he'll say, could you come work in my organization, da da da, and then as you're looking into it, you're reading it and going, I don't know that I want to do this again. I don't feel that this is a right fit.
Yeah.
And I've never had a situation where I've regretted those decisions, because I always end up in the place that I'm supposed to be.
Mm,
I do.
yeah.
And I sometimes don't realize it right away, but eventually it does come and I go, yeah, that's why I went left instead of right, because this was not a good fit.
Yeah.
It didn't sit with my soul.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it's important to look at every opportunity really critically.
Oh,
Uh,
completely.
because sometimes things are just not aligned. Sometimes things look really good. That's happened to me in the past where things have looked like really good. I step into that role. I'm like, this is not at all what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, and there's so
So
many motivating factors, right? Like sometimes you can get an opportunity where the money is so good, or the
yeah,
location is so good, or
yeah,
the setup is really good, and you go, I'll be, anyone should be lucky to have this job. And but then if there are key boxes, it's that negotiables and non-negotiables thing. And
yeah,
I have a list of non-negotiables where if anything shows up in that category, um, that I can't fix, I
yeah,
know that it's going to be a temporary situation.
yeah, yeah. And that's okay. And sometimes we go into roles as from a temporary perspective too.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
and yeah, and
I'm
then
I'm a I'm a big believer that every situation, good or bad, you learn something, right?
yeah,
Your
and
lesson.
that's the important piece is like, what do you take away from that experience?
Exactly. Right,
That's
because I've also taken roles that everything felt right. And then I get there and it's like, oh my gosh, what did I do?
yeah,
You make it work, but there are things that you learn.
yeah,
I learned some of the most important leader lessons in leadership from a terrible leader very
yeah,
early in my career. Like
exactly.
I learned how not to treat people, but I also learned how to treat people, because as terrible as that person was to me, the team gravitated towards her. And I was more closer to clinical care than she was, but they always relied on her feedback and input. And I realized that the one important quality that she had that I was lacking was she always circled back to people.
Yeah.
She always followed up with folks, no matter what question they had, when they had it, she always would get back to folks. Where I was too busy, and in my mind, I would think, oh, they saw how busy I was, so they'll understand.
Mm.
So I learned that very early in my career about how fidelity is important, right?
Yeah.
Your bond. Like if you tell someone I'll get back to you tomorrow, even if you don't have the answer, tell them that.
Yeah.
Get back to them when you say, and follow through on your commitment.
Yeah. Important. Important. I want to be cognizant of our time. I want to spend some time in your current role with the American Nurses Association.
Mhm.
Can you explain what your role at the American Nurses Association is, and what do you hope to achieve in that role in the short term, anyway?
Mm.
And then I have other questions to follow up with that.
Sure. I as a senior VP of Equity and Engagement, I've been at ANA for about 5 years. I joined the organization during the pandemic. I started off as a director of nursing programs, where I did a lot of work in nursing practice and work environment. Now, in this role, I'm focusing more on, equity is equity, right? It's the outcome that we all want when you diversify, when you include people, give them a sense of belonging, and address accessibility and, inclusion. You know, Equity is the outcome.
Right.
Um, the engagement piece is about workforce. And it's really about how our efforts will help with a sustainable, healthy, thriving nursing profession that has not been healthy, or most of those things, for as long as the career has been around,
Right.
um, or the profession's been around. So, and those two feed into each other, right? You have to have this equity piece for the workforce to be strong. At the same time, you need a strong and effective workforce to get to a lot of the equity pieces that you need to achieve, not only within a profession, but also with the people that we serve. So that's essentially my role. Do some policy work in that space, do articles, speaking engagements, position statements, especially now with everything that's happening um, on both fronts. Uh, my role is centered to addressing some of those things with the mighty team that we have at ANA.
Yeah. Um, now, with what's going on with the current administration, with the work with DEI and sort of the um, what's happening with, the eliminations of like certain verbiage in research or certain verbiage into policies or, organizational strategies and things like that. So a lot of things have been happening. And one of the things I've noticed, just going through a few conferences and some of my colleagues who have been, who are doing work around their work is around the whole equity piece and diversity of the workforce. A lot of organizations, institutions, large healthcare systems are changing verbiage, they're changing their policies just to, I'll air quote, comply with the current administration's sort of mandates, right? But we've seen nursing conferences, um, and I'll go ahead and say it, disinvite speakers because of their topic being around diversity, equity, inclusion. We've seen individuals being asked to modify their presentations because of the language that was okay. Uh, January 19th, 2025, but January 20th, 2025, all of a sudden it became a bad set a list of words that we could no longer use.
Oh, I've
What
seen those.
is
Yeah.
and I don't want to make this an A&A thing. I'll ask you as an individual, what do you
Mm.
think is happening in nursing, and how should we really look at this? Because I get it, like there's people that are afraid of funding loss or what's going to happen and things like that. But what's your opinion about what we're seeing in nursing right now?
Yeah, it's very concerning. Um, so this is the way I'll frame it. Um, our sympathetic nervous system has a fight or flight response, right? When there's a threat.
Yeah,
And that's part of what you see with institutions. Some are in fight mode because of what they believe in and the values that they want to uphold and the duty they have to their constituents. Some are in flight mode. They assess the risk and they realize that because of what we're trying to achieve over here with this administration and the new ball that we've all been given for this game is this ball requires a lot
yeah.
of uh, us giving in and heeding to their own beliefs.
Hmm.
And on top of that, if you don't play with this ball, um, there are consequences potentially. So most institutions have a risk. Every institution has variation of risk tolerance, and some assess the risk and said we need to fold the tent now before we get heat.
Yeah,
Some are playing the wait and see. Some are saying, heck no, I'm not going. Like we're gonna fight.
yeah,
And it's hard for me in my seat to say, this organization's wrong and this one's right or ours is right, because to a certain degree we're all under threat.
yeah,
And there's a potential that if you decide to fight, there's some risk of losing something. But I do think this is a time for nursing organizations that need help with finding their way, for us to band together and work together. Where okay, ANA may decide to be in fight mode, but how do we help this other organization to be in relative fight mode
yeah,
and not do flight? Like, I think there's a way that we can help every nursing organization to not get into flight mode, because eventually there's a price to pay for that
yeah,
when things come back to center, and it will. We're not going to be here forever. There was a time when during the darkest times in our history, where rightfully people will wonder whether things will get better, and it did, right? In came the civil rights era and the suffrage movement and all the other movements that we've had.
yeah,
So we'll get to the light at some point. And when we get to the light, where you don't want to be is, this is the organization that just did flight, and there's just long lasting mistrust and distrust in that institution because they chose flight.
yeah.
So I hope I made sense.
Yeah, no, no, you're making sense. Now I have a follow-up on that. Um, and this is a general nursing comment or question. Do you think it is nursing's role to be at the forefront? Because I'm more of the fight guy, right?
Yeah.
Like I understand organizations do a risk assessment and they say, okay, not we just don't have the bandwidth or this is not the thing. On the
Mm.
other hand, I also have thoughts of how much of this stuff was sort of the flavor of the month thing that now
Yeah,
that they
performative.
yeah,
Absolutely.
like oh, everybody else is doing DEI,
Yeah.
we have to do DEI, and as soon as somebody said you don't have to, I'm like, oh, okay, I don't have to do it
Oh,
anymore, and it's
absolutely.
came
That
off
is
the table,
true.
right?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, given the history of nursing, and
Hmm.
specifically the predominantly white female nursing that we've
Hmm.
seen, and the historic uh, component of exclusionary practices within nursing. All the way back, even the ANA at some point was not diverse, right? Hence a lot of our like the Black Nurses Association, things like that came about as a result of that. Um,
Absolutely.
so from that perspective, thinking about that perspective, where do you think, well, not where do you think nursing is behind in the fight mode? Because I personally, this is my personal take on this, don't see a movement
Hmm.
from nursing.
Hmm.
That is, I see pockets, tiny pockets of
Hmm.
individuals or even small organizations taking the fight forward. I don't
Hmm.
see the big organizations really taking a stand. The way I think it should be taken, right? But
Yeah.
I'm not in the role to make those decisions.
No, and it's a great point. And that's the thing, right? The larger institutions have more to lose.
Yeah.
So they're being stepwise, and I'll say what I said at our membership assembly in June. Not everything we do in this space is going to be public.
Yeah.
And I also think that to a certain degree, uh, people look for um, position statements whenever a law is passed that's just inhumane or whatever, or some of the ridiculous stuff that's showing up right now
Yeah.
from this new administration. People looking for, we need to see your statement on, you know, calling for this to change or whatever, and why aren't we doing a march and all that. And position statements today with this group, this administration, and these group of leaders that we have to deal with, it's in charge.
Yeah.
These things are like thoughts and prayers statements,
Exactly.
right? Like, what weight does it carry? What is it going
Yeah.
to do? How is it going to help things? So, and it's whiplash. Like,
Yeah.
if we had to do that for every single one, then it really starts to lose value, because
Yeah.
you're just going to keep seeing this. We're against. We're appalled. We're disappointed.
Yeah.
Like, what is that doing? And
Yeah.
then someone also mentioned to me about how we need to organize a march. Now, again, there might have been a time where that, I'm not going to say might, because a lot of our big social movements came with that type of activity.
Right.
That's with this situation that we're in, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, that also comes with some risk, because we also at a time where they will not hesitate to turn the military against its own citizens.
Yeah.
And let's say that wasn't there. There are some policies, and behind policies that are heartless. There are people that write them that are heartless. So would they care?
Yeah.
They saw us out there and marching for change.
Yeah.
And I'm one of the women that marched a few years ago, um, during that other era,
Yeah.
where I felt really good about it. I felt hopeful and everything else. And this time is very different. So we have to um, do the iron sharpening iron thing. Like, we need to work together on how we can be better together, particularly large nursing associations. I really do think that now is a time more than any for us all to get together, figure out how we can help each other, be stronger together, and show that alignment to, it's kind of like the parents and the children, like showing the children that we're not in despair. We've got this. We have a strategy. We're working together. You may
Yeah.
not hear everything that we're doing because there's a risk in sharing some of that, but trust that we have a strategy. So I
Yeah.
think that is the way forward, to be honest.
Yeah. Do you think that leadership, not to put anybody on the, chopping block or anything like that, do you think the leadership right now is missing in communicating that piece you just mentioned?
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Because
And
I think perception and the reality of it
yeah,
is, if the more from a membership perspective, when I look
yeah.
out there and I don't see the leadership speaking up about what's happening with world affairs, what's happening with immigration, what's happening with the DEI movement, what's happening with all the stuff that's happening with,
Mm-hmm.
it feels like the messaging that's coming out that's very visible right now is Medicaid, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Medicaid, Medicare, all that stuff. And there's a whole financial piece to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the visibility right now looks like it's the big organizations are really concerned about the business end of things, where the
Mm-hmm.
dollars are coming, and that's where the concentration seems to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
The big messaging of uniting nursing around our code of ethics,
Yeah.
are sort of like the call to, and I think it's going to be, I think I put this on LinkedIn a few days ago. It feels like there's a sort of there's a sense of complacency around this whole most trusted profession thing that we've had for 20 plus years now.
Yeah.
And we're just not making the visibility isn't there that nursing is leading really any efforts. And as you mentioned, the statements are I want to say they for me they're useless. They're not. I want to see
Yeah,
actionable
yeah,
items. What can I
yeah,
do, right?
yeah,
Where I'm not seeing, and being in California, unfortunately for me, like I can't, like I'm in a state with that's aligned with what I want. So writing my congressman isn't going to necessarily do a whole lot, but how do we get all of nursing united around like at least our own code of ethics that is
yeah.
really should be the guiding light for us, right?
Totally, totally. And you're speaking my language because I do think that there's an opportunity for us to do that. And I'm actively um, working on the strategy, particularly as it pertains to equity,
Yeah,
with some of our treasured minority ethnic associations to do the call to arms.
yeah,
And I think as much as ANA could be that, given the choppy waters that we're in and the importance of this topic and where and who it impacts, I think ANA should be in a supportive role to
mm,
a minority ethnic association that should make this set up this call to arms of the large nursing associations.
yeah,
And a lot of us, because we're dealing with something new, because we haven't agreed with every administration,
yeah,
but the retaliatory nature and heartlessness that we're seeing, heartless actions that we're seeing, is what's new.
yeah,
And so I think a lot of us are still in this figuring out our strategy mode. And we also know not only the retaliatory piece, but we also want to make sure that if there's a window that's cracked open for us to be able to walk through to be at the table, we can be at the table. Because if we're not at the table, they're going to invite another group, and we cannot assume that every nurse believes what you and I believe.
no, no, I mean we have two congresswomen
And
that
I
are
know you wrote
that
about this. Absolutely.
that just
And that's
voted
just
for
the,
for these
yeah, that's the
cuts.
tip of the iceberg.
Yeah,
Like, when
I'm
we
sure,
started
yeah,
doing this, yeah, when we started doing this, when we started the work on the racism and the Commission to Address Racism in Nursing and our racial reckoning statement, oh my gosh. There, that song from the 80s that called Freaks Come Out at Night?
oh
Like,
yeah.
they all came out when they started, and it's like,
Except
wow,
like it was everybody got permission to all of a sudden
yeah,
like
yeah.
come out of. They're like, no, 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 we
I'm
don't
out
want
of
you
the
out of the
closet.
closet, push you back in.
Yeah,
Go back,
like,
go
what are
be
you
under.
doing? Oh my gosh. And we're like, wow. And then there's the anti-vaxxer nurses too.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
so we do have a swath of nurses that uh we're not talking partisan stuff here. We're just
no, no,
talking
no, yeah,
about
yeah,
what we know based on evidence and science
yeah,
and our code of ethics, where we
yeah,
should be, what we should do. And these folks are not there.
yeah,
Right, so we have to contend with that too.
yeah,
But I would like to believe that's not a large percentage. i
yeah.
i, I have to believe, and I refuse to think otherwise,
For my
that
own sanity.
we have somewhat of a large group, and I know that's a relative term, but I really do want to believe that most of our nurses, and I'm saying somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 to 80% of nurses, believe in the things that we believe in, right?
Yeah,
Which is evidence, science is real, and we should be equitable in the care that we deliver, no matter who
absolutely.
shows up. And we
Yeah,
should support policies that support that, because equity is as old as the Bible. As a
yeah,
matter of fact, I'm going to show my religious beliefs here, but Jesus did equity work. Okay. So this is, and what's so ironic about people that do not support equity, they're the same ones that support the programs that are set up because they're framed in equity.
yeah,
Social Security was framed in equity. Medicare and Medicaid was framed in equity. Like all these social programs that a lot of people partake in.
Veteran benefits was framed
Yes,
in equity.
are the same ones that will say, no, we don't believe in equity, which is insane to me. But
Yeah,
that's where we are, unfortunately.
yeah, yeah. I that's yeah. We can go on for hours with this. So
We need a part
we
two.
need a part two of this. Absolutely. So I want to again be cognizant of the time we have. This is really great stuff, and I think it's a discussion which probably we may bring in a part two with some other guests as well. Maybe we could
Oh,
do a
sure.
panel.
Yeah.
So for you as you see this work moving forward, uh, what do you think is next for you? Or what is your call to action for anybody tuning in and listening in?
Call to action is as much as we look for, again, the large organizations, the professional organizations to act. I think the call to action for everyone, which I'm also being the man in the mirror and turning on myself, is for us to do local work in this space too.
Yeah,
Nothing that prevents that. And local work is being each other's keepers, speaking up when we see injustices, focusing squarely on driving for equities and ending programs that set up inequities, and really making sure that we keep nursing care to be, an apolitical element of society.
yeah,
We care for everybody, no matter who they are, where they
yeah,
come from, what they've done. Like we care for the Boston bomber.
yeah,
That's who nurses are. That's what we do.
yeah,
And we should fight to make sure that never changes,
yeah,
no matter
yeah,
who's in office, no matter what's happening, no matter what policies put in place. And
yeah,
we should exercise our ability to vote with our feet and move on to other organizations if you don't feel that that organization is meeting your values and what we've set up in a code of ethics. The
yeah.
code of ethics is not debatable. It's not multiple choice. It's very clear about where we should be during this time.
Well, actually, two last questions for you. ANA, represents, although it represents all of nursing, uh, the membership is not where it needs to be
Mhm.
to really say it represents all of nursing. And there's a certain amount of mistrust with the ANA also
Sure,
due to
sure,
historical and how they've performed in the
sure.
past at certain points. Um, what would be, with this publication of the new code of ethics and what's going on in the world, if you took your, I don't know if you can, took your ANA hat off, and if you were looking at ANA, what would be ANA's next? What would your recommendation be to the ANA if you were to say, what is your next step to build trust in the community at this point in time?
Yeah, well, you're asking me to take off my ANA hat, which is putting toothpaste back in the tube. Like that can't happen. But I do. There was only 5 years ago. I was on the outside looking in, right? And I uh, I don't know. I don't believe I was a member of ANA until I started working at ANA. So I do think that what we have to do is demonstrate value. And demonstrating value is showing all of that. And we talk about equity, and it's usually framed from a racial element standpoint, and it's beyond that.
Yeah,
And I think some of the work that we've done with the commission has been a start to showing that we want to be inclusive, but we still have a lot of work to do. And part of it is also putting our money where our mouth is. So one of the things that I'm going to be leading soon is managing a $2 million equity fund to invest in programs to show that we're focused on inclusivity. We have recently in June, we had some major discussions around being inclusive to all nurses. And we have a conglomerate of um, constituents that come every year to DC that votes on some of these matters.
Yeah.
And we didn't get a definitive vote that we will be inclusive of all nurses. And in that case, this case, I'm talking about LPNs.
Yeah.
But I do think that a door that was very firmly shut at one point has been cracked a bit, and we'll continue to pound on that
Yeah.
to make sure that we're fully inclusive. So there are a number of things, and it's like Missouri, the show me state. What
Yeah.
we have to do is to show people that we mean what
Yeah.
we say, and we're
Yeah.
not just being performative.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to hear. And I'm going to put in another plug. I know you and I have talked about this in the past, but part of the inclusivity and equity piece, making sure our veteran populations are part of that
Yes,
equity work.
absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
so, um, but I'm not gonna stop bugging you on that one. So, uh,
No, and we have some work that's been happening on that.
yeah,
And as I mentioned to you, Ali, I love to connect you with some of the members of the team that's working on this to understand what we're missing,
yeah,
because that's a major, a very important group of constituents that we need to do right by.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Again, thank you. I know we're a little bit over time. Any last words for our listeners?
Only for us to, as times are hard, take care of ourselves. That's the number one thing. Um, we can't be overly consumed with the negative. We need to find our positive spots and lights in darkness. And I'll say, I'll end with this. I listened to a sermon by recently where the pastor said, in places of darkness, you have a choice to be the light. So during these times, it seems so turbulent and uncertain and dark. Choose to be the light.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you so much
Thank
for being
you.
on the show. We have been listening
Yeah.
to, thank you. We've been listening to Dr. Katie Boston-Leary, and I am looking forward. And this actually might be my last show for the season, if I'm
Oh,
doing my calculations right. I think you're my last recording for the season. So thank you.
well, thank
Thank you for
you.
being here, and for all my guests. Thank you for an incredible season. And for all my listeners, I look forward to bringing you more incredible colleagues as we move forward with the new season around September-ish. Sounds good. All right. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining me on the RN Mentor Podcast, a production of RN Mentor Consulting. Please don't forget to follow and check out rnmentor.org for additional content, speakers, podcast notes, and more. Until next time, fair winds and following seas.